Good evening and welcome to another edition of Making the Case. I'm very pleased to be with you here again on this Wednesday evening and very happy to be joining you wherever you are and on whichever medium you are using to tune in. Welcome to you. Welcome to those who are watching from home on television, on MTV. Let me welcome those who are joining me on Freedom Radio, as well as those joining on Facebook. And for those of you who are joining me on Facebook, who are watching this live, please help me to share this program by clicking on the share button so that we can reach as many people as possible. Tonight, I want to focus mainly on two issues, that is the COI, the Commission of Inquiry report that was presented to His Excellency President Ali today. And I want to talk a little bit about the upcoming local government elections. I will start off by addressing some issues related to the report that was issued today and presented at State House, handed over to President Ali in the presence of the Prime Minister, the Vice President, the GCOM chairman, the commissioners of GCOM, as well as the commissioners on the COI. We are very pleased to put an end to this chapter, for the official COI to have come to an end, and we finally have a written report on all of the events that took place from March 2nd, 2020, and the ensuing 5-month period, the struggle to get the correct results of the elections declared, and the rightful winner of the elections, which is the People's Progressive Party Civic, and of course to have the rightful presidential candidate sworn in. That is President Ali, who was eventually sworn in on August the 2nd, 2020. Now, the report confirmed what all of us know, what all of us saw and witnessed on live television and through live updates that were being shown to the public and to the country through different media outlets, as well as through Facebook posts and videos that were captured from individuals who were on scene, whether it was in the Ashmans building or at GCOM building. All of that evidence captured by people who were there and witnessed it in person, recorded it, and was eventually used as evidence that was presented to the commissioners on the COI. And so we're very happy to put an end to this chapter, in the sense that it is now finally officially recorded. And this is something that I was very concerned about, and I think a lot of people in our country was concerned about. We wanted to ensure, all of us, it was our collective will that this sort of history be recorded in a permanent way, in an official way. And we did not want it to be a documentation of what the People's Progressive Party Civic said, or what the PPP said. And so it was very important that there was an independent commission of inquiry conducted by independent commissioners who made themselves available for months to record testimony and to gather evidence, to do an independent inquiry, and at the end of it, to issue an official report. I say that this report confirmed what we already know because it was an open, blatant, brazen attempt at rigging the elections in 2020, and we all witnessed it. But it is important, and it is an important milestone today to have an independent inquiry done and concluded with the result of a report issued officially on all of the proceedings and all of the happenings of 2020 and the attempted rigging of the elections. And I just would like to highlight a few important statements made in the report, some excerpts. The report is over 100 pages, and I would urge all Guyanese to please get a copy of this report and please read it for yourselves. It is extremely revealing, and it records chronologically all of the events that took place from March to August, and it details all of the attempts to derail the elections and to try to influence the official declaration as against the People's Progressive Party Civic. So it's important that you get an opportunity to read that report so that you can have all of the details of what took place during those 5 months period. And it was a long 5 months, and there were a lot of things that took place during that time. So let me just highlight a few paragraphs for you, and I'm reading from the report here. It says, in summary, our inquiry reveals that there were, in fact, shockingly brazen attempts by Chief Elections Officer Keith Lowenfield, Deputy Chief Election Officer Roxanne Myers, and Returning Officer Claremont Mingo to derail and corrupt the statutorily prescribed procedure for the counting, ascertaining, and tabulation of votes of the March 2nd election, as well as the true declaration of the results of that election, and that they did so to put it in unvarnished language of the ordinary man for the purpose of stealing the election. End of quote. So this is directly from the report itself, and in what they say is unvarnished language, or language that anybody can understand. That they first of all corrupted the process of the count, and you would recall that that was when we first started to raise objection. We started to object during the count when the RO, which is Mr. Mingo, introduced the spreadsheet, when he should have, by law, been using the statements of poll to conduct the count. So, first of all, what they did was try to corrupt and derail the count. Then when that didn't work, they tried to corrupt the tabulation process. And we saw on live television, in Ashman's building, you saw tabulation of results completed when the count was not completed as yet. But those were figures that were inputted there by Mingo or whomever did a tabulation showing increased votes for the APNU-AFC coalition and reduced votes for the People's Progressive Party Civic. And then they also tried to derail the declaration of the results of the election. So you would recall as well the attempt by Lowenfield to discard unilaterally what he determined to be invalid votes, and thereby removing tens of thousands of votes that were cast in favor of the PPP and increasing by an enormous volume the votes that were cast for the APNU AFC, thereby giving them the victory for the March 2nd election. So they tried at different stages, the count, the tabulation, the declaration, and then in between all of those attempts, they were running to the court as well to try to get the court to do their bidding for them and to try to get the court to either stop the process or determine that the elections were not properly held and to perhaps rule that we return that we scrap the elections and hold fresh elections. And that is not something that we would have taken lightly. And so we fought against all of those attempts all the way to the CCJ. So the report highlights all of these different ingredients that went
into the rigging attempt. And it captures it very well. It shows that the commissioners understood
very well, based on the evidence presented to them, exactly what transpired. And so let me just read another excerpt for you from the report itself, and I quote, "From the totality of the evidence surrounding the RO's declaration," this is Mingo's declaration, "there appears to be such collusion and collaboration between senior GCOM officials as to likely amount to a conspiracy to make what was undoubtedly a premature and unlawful declaration of falsified results, which showed the APNU AFC party as the winner of Electoral District number 4. This was the ultimate goal of the CEO, the DCEO, and the RO. This is extremely incriminating statements against those three officials, those three individuals, Mingo, Myers, and Lowenfield. And the commissioners were able to rope all three of them in and to say that there was a clear collaboration and collusion among the three of them. And the unlawful declaration was to declare the winner the APNU AFC party. So that was the goal, to corrupt this process, to influence this process, to change votes, and to ultimately declare APNU AFC as the beneficiary of the rigging. That is, in essence, what the report is saying here. They did this, the three of them, they collaborated and colluded so that they can deliver a victory to the APNU AFC. And today, this is only 3 years ago, less than 3 years ago we were in this fight. 3 years ago, in this time in April of 2020, we were fighting. We were fighting for our democracy. So 3 years ago, and these same people, the beneficiaries of the rig, of the attempted rig, the Aubrey Norton, the Amanza Desir, the Valda Lawrence, the Roysdale Ford, the Kemraj Ramjitan, the Cathy Hughes, all of them are in the parliament now. All of them are there. And they come to you like wolf in sheep's clothing, and they play the victim. And they don't want to talk about the 2020 rigging attempt of the elections. They wanted to disappear. They wanted to be some historical event that the PPP invented, and that the PPP are the ones who perpetrated fraud, and that they are the victims. That is the narrative that they are carrying now, as though Guyanese are stupid and that everybody's stupid and we don't understand what we saw and heard and read. And so this we have here, an independent inquiry, putting together the puzzle and roping in all of these people and saying that they colluded and collaborated for the benefit of the APNU AFC. So who were the beneficiaries? The APNU AFC coalition. They were the beneficiaries of the attempt to rig the election. It was being done in their favor, and they knew of it, and they were complicit in it. If they were the victims of fraud, as they go around the place and they're talking about fraud and the PPP are an installed regime, if that is the case and they're the victims of fraud, and they didn't want to present the PPP or the GCOM with their SOPs that they claim to have that we haven't seen as yet, why didn't they take it there? Why didn't they take it to the Commission of Inquiry and let the justices review it? Let them show and prove what they've been saying. If it is so, they could have taken the SOPs there, or they could have go in person and give evidence of the fraud that they claim that was perpetrated on them when they are crying victim and crying foul now. They should have taken the stand. But they didn't go voluntarily. And then those who did go voluntarily went there and invoked their right to remain silent. Devalda Lawrence took the stand and didn't give any evidence. The same Valda Lawrence who was integrally involved in the rigging, who was present in Ashman's building and then at GCOM with the bedsheet attempt. She was present. She was integrally involved. She signed the declaration. So she was present every step of the way in the rigging process. And then now they come and they go to the podium in the parliament and they talk so nicely and softly and try to sound so intelligent and decent people, law-abiding people. This charade is not going to fool anyone. And Guyanese have to remember what they put this country through during those 5 months. Then we had the COVID-19 pandemic that coincided with this 5-month period. And the use of the pandemic, they tried to use the pandemic to scare people. Instituted the lockdown to try to keep people off the streets so that there is no protests, so they can carry on very nicely with their rigging attempt. And hopefully would be able to swear in President Granger for a second term. But let me go on a little bit more. The report said as well, the conduct and actions of CEO Lowenfield. Lowenfield, this is the Lowenfield that got the 200 acres of land in Linden. Land that could have been converted to housing development, that would have produced 1,000 house lots for the people of Linden. One man got it. One man got that entire amount of land that could have produced 1,000 house lots for Lindeners. But oh, they love Lindeners and they love Linden, and they had nothing to do with Lowenfield. Lowenfield did this on his own behalf. That's what they said. But the report clearly says that Lowenfield's actions, Lowenfield, Myers, and Mingo, the actions of these three individuals and the collusion that took place to rig the elections was for the benefit of APNU AFC. And they are the ones that gave Lowenfield that massive amount of land in Linden. But you know, Guyanese, we can't connect the dots. We can't see that. We're not intelligent enough to see that. You know, as Guyanese would say, you know, them alone got all the sense. So nobody can't see through their actions. So the report said this: the conduct and actions of CEO Lowenfield in relation to the discharge of his statutory duties prescribed by sections 96 and 97 of the Representation of the People's Act, ROPA, were a brazen attempt to prevent GCOM declaring the true results of the elections of 2nd March 2020. His conduct was, to borrow the words of former Jamaican Prime Minister Bruce Golding, head of the OAS Observer Mission to Guyana, a transparent attempt to alter the results of an election. As the Chief Election Officer of Guyana, his conduct dealt a deep, pernicious body blow to the integrity of Guyana's electoral system and cherished democratic values, and must justly and forcefully be condemned as the ultimate betrayal of trust reposed in the highest election official in the land by the people of Guyana. And that's what Lowenfield did: betray the trust of the people of Guyana. Public officials must not convert public office to their own use. They have a duty, a fiduciary duty to the people of our country. A duty of trust is placed on them, and they have to conduct themselves in the interests of the public, not for their own private purposes or objectives. But they were serving their masters. They were serving the masters of the day. That is the government of the day, the APNU AFC. And when they lost the elections, they couldn't digest that. And so they were going to stay in there as long as possible. And they were prepared to do just about anything to ensure that the true results were not declared. But we know that they lost that attempt. We were able to resist at every single stage, and not just the PPP and our supporters, but the entire Guyana was with us in this fight. Everybody who witnessed this, all Guyanese, have to take credit for standing up during those 5 months and for fighting off this attempt to make our state and to make our country a pariah state. All Guyanese should be commended for their conduct as well during that 5-month period. We did not descend into violence or civil war. Guyanese were extremely patient and focused on what was taking place at the courts, at GCOM during the count. They were following all of the reports, and they were commenting on social media. And all of that is part of the fight. All of that is part of the struggle. Even those who were at home offering prayers, for those of us who were on the front lines, we appreciate it. We appreciate it, and we thank you, the efforts of every single Guyanese who stood up and said, this is wrong. And there were many people who voted for APNU AFC in the 2020 election as well. And when they recognized that the coalition lost and that they were refusing to allow the declaration of the results and trying to prevent the official results from being declared, they called them out. Many APNU supporters did that. They took to social media and they said, we voted for this party, but we don't support rigged elections and we don't support undemocratic behavior. And if you lost, you need to come out of power. You need to resign and allow President Ali to be sworn in. Many people did that. Decent people did that. And we thank them as well. And we thank all of those people who came out to watch ballot boxes, to watch containers 24 hours a day. Whether there was sunshine or rainfall, people were there. People sacrificed months of sleep and rest and peace to protect the integrity of those ballot boxes. Those who volunteered during the recount process as well, who came out in COVID. None of us were vaccinated then. We didn't have any vaccines. But we put on our mask every day. So many people who were there supporting other small parties, people who were there as independent observers, people who were even the GCOM staff who were conducting the recount. Everybody was there braving the pandemic. We didn't know the danger we were putting ourselves in, but we risked it because I couldn't fathom, at least I can say for myself, I couldn't fathom living in a country that was undemocratic. I have grown up in a country that is a democratic state. And I would like to know that I always retain the right to choose a government. And even if a government does not deliver, the people have the right to hold a government accountable. And when they go to the polls every 5 years, their collective voice will be heard at the ballot boxes. And that is a sacred right, the right to vote, and the right to elect a government of your choice. And no regime, no administration should deprive you of that right. And I think every Guyanese knows that the PPP is not associated with undemocratic practices, and that we are not associated with rigged elections, and that we have no such history in our party. And this leads me into my second topic this evening, and that is the local government elections that are quickly approaching and that will be held on June the 12th, 2023. And I start on that same premise that the People's Progressive Party Civic does not engage in undemocratic practices. We have never and we will never engage in undemocratic practices and or rigged elections. It is not in our nature. It is not in our DNA. Those practices, undemocratic practices, are associated with one party in this country from time immemorial, and that is the PNC, now the APNU coalition. It is in their DNA, and we saw it only recently, 3 years ago. So when they want to say this is a thing of the past, and some of them even doubt. Some of them refuse to acknowledge the 28 years of rigged elections in this country. Some of them still refuse to acknowledge that period up until 1992, when we had the first free and fair elections held in Guyana. And from that moment, throughout that 28-year period, it was the PPP under the leadership of Dr. Chedi Jagan who was fighting for democracy in this country. And we have never lost a free and fair elections. So now that we are in government, and now that we are in a position where we have the trust and confidence of the people of Guyana, who are seeing visible and tangible evidence every single day of the commitment of President Ali and his entire cabinet and the entire government, seeing our commitment to ensuring we keep our promises to the people of this country. Every day people are witnessing the transformation and the development that is taking place all across our country. And the PNC wants to tell you that the PPP obtained fraudulent signatures for the local government elections. Right away you know something is definitely wrong. Something is definitely wrong there. Imagine Aubrey Norton telling this country that the PPP is trying to rig the local government elections and there is massive fraud. You know, they like this word, massive. Everything is massive and big. They got 5 people protesting on the road and it's a massive crowd and massive protests. They never wanted the local government elections in the first place. So let's think back. Think about all I've said leading up to the local government elections over the last few minutes. And then think back now about what has been taking place over the last few months. Which party was it that didn't even want the local government elections to be held? It is the PNC. The AFC said, we're out. And at least they were honest enough to recognize that they have no support and that they can't compete in these elections. So they said, we're out. And they removed themselves from the process. The PNC now, fighting the process every step of the way. These elections were supposed to be held last year. Remember what Alexander and all of them were doing at GCOM? From one problem to the next. The list, they want a new list, they want house to house, they want biometrics. All of these things. You forget? That's what they were doing all the time. Trying to prevent the elections from being held. Then we were advised by GCOM that they would be ready on March, was it the 12th of March or I'm not sure the date, but the election was supposed to be held. So they said they would be ready by a certain date in March. And the Minister of Local Government issued a proclamation and said on that same date, on the first date, the first available date that GCOM would be ready, we would have elections. And the PNC derailed the process again. The PNC commissioners. They're afraid to go to the elections. So they tried for months and months not to get to the point where we have a fixed date for elections, to have that date published in the Gazette, and then they were mortally afraid of nominations day. And all of their fears came true on nominations day when they saw the sea of red and the massive support of our party, the People's Progressive Party Civic, especially in their strongholds, in Georgetown, in Linden, in Kokwani, in Region 5, where people came out in support, putting on a red t-shirt, publicly coming out, showing their faces and saying, we are with progress and we are with the PPP. And not only we support them, in many cases, their people said, we're going to be candidates, we want to be candidates. We want to be on the ticket. We want to participate in the elections. And you saw the crossover of many former PNC, APNU supporters and former councillors too of the APNU. So all their fears came true on nomination day, and they were rattled to the core. They were shocked and shook. So naturally, with the embarrassment of not having any support in the streets, no support on the road, and no support even by your senior party members. So you had Avalda Lawrence, for example, who was in the Ashman's building and being part of the process and signing declaration and whatnot. But we didn't see her standing next to Aubrey Norton on nomination day. There's no Roysdale Ford. There's no Amanza Desir. There's no Ganesh Mai Paul. There's no nobody. Everybody abandoned poor Mr. Norton. And he went in practically alone to hand in the list and trying to galvanize support around the country. It was a tremendous embarrassment for Mr. Norton and the PNC. It is perhaps the worst condition. It is perhaps the worst condition that party has ever been in. And for a national party, it is an embarrassment, their performance and the condition of the party under his leadership. Now we are contesting, as we did in opposition. The PPPC is contesting in all of the local authority areas, all 80 local authority areas, and in all 610 constituencies across the country. We are contesting in all of the constituencies. We are doing so now, and we did so even in opposition, because we have a very broad-based support across the length and breadth of Guyana. We are a true national party, and our party is a representation of the people of Guyana because it is made up of all the different races and religions of our country. We are a true multi-ethnic national party. The APNU, on the other hand, is contesting in 279 constituencies out of the 610 across the country. And Mr. Norton, the leader of the opposition, at his press conference last week, said to this nation, in a similar way I'm speaking to you here tonight, publicly said to the nation that the PNC is contesting virtually all, that's what he said, his exact words, virtually all of the constituencies across the country. That is a blatant lie. So he is telling the country an open, blatant lie that can be easily refuted by fact. And he is not uncomfortable in doing so. He has no reservation in openly lying to people and knowing very well that in a few minutes, somebody just have to go and check and can be able to rebut him and to point out that he's lying. So this is the person, the same person who's coming to tell you now that the PPP is engaging in fraud. Openly lied to the country. A simple lie that can be easily rebutted with fact. He's also now coming to tell you that the PPP is engaging in fraud and that you must believe him and trust him. So he said they're contesting in virtually all of the constituencies, but they are in fact only contesting in 45% of the all of the constituencies in the country. So this type of poor performance from a national party and the main opposition party in our country is a disaster for Mr. Norton. It's an absolute disaster for the PNC and for his leadership, because this is the result of bad leadership. This is visible result of bad leadership and the evidence that he has no support and that even the members of his own party has no confidence in him, because nobody came to stand with him on nomination day. It's as though people are ashamed. Either they're ashamed of the leader of the opposition or they're ashamed of their party. So that was very, very visible on nomination day. There was no excitement in their camp, and you know, they try to say and they try to disparage people by saying that the PPP bought black votes. I don't know why Mr. Norton would think that black votes are for sale. And I'm very disturbed by his statement. It is not something that we should treat lightly. No Guyanese, especially Afro-Guyanese, should treat that statement very lightly or should disregard that. Why does he think that the black vote is for sale? Putting aside for a minute that he's accusing the PPP of engaging in such a practice, why would he think that he can say something as disparaging and as disrespectful as that about Afro-Guyanese? They're for sale? And there you have another Afro-Guyanese, Mr. Norton himself, saying that about his own race. Something is definitely wrong with the leader of the opposition and that entire party, because they have a lot of other members who are parroting the same thing, and they see nothing wrong with that. They see nothing wrong with their statements. They see nothing wrong with referring to Afro-Guyanese as house slaves and soup drinkers. And I am very, very offended by those statements, because they are racist statements. And if you are not a racist, you're going to be offended by it. It doesn't matter whether he's talking about your race or not. The fact is, it's racism. It's open and blatant racism. And there is no place in our society for that type of rhetoric and for racism to thrive. We have to stop it. I don't want to live in a country where people can go around and openly make racist statements with impunity. There has to be consequences for that. People in America, for example, can be on a TV program and make a racist statement or a slang or something, and they get sent home. They're fired immediately because there's zero tolerance for that type of behavior and for that type of mentality. And you have a constitutional office holder, the leader of the opposition, the main opposition in our country, can go very comfortably with no reservation and disparage Afro-Guyanese all across our country. Look at what they did to Jeremy Garrett, our national footballer. The way they spoke about that young man with such disdain and hate. Put his picture up and the Burke, Rickford Burke did that as well. Disparaging remarks about that young man, a man who has played and represented his country in sports, an Afro-Guyanese, and wanting to embarrass him and shame him for throwing his support behind the People's Progressive Party Civic. We have to stop that. All Guyanese have to stand up and say, we're not going to tolerate this. And we're not going to allow people to walk around this place and spread hate and division or divisive rhetoric And they must be allowed to do so in a public space. That has to stop. We have to have zero tolerance for that kind of behavior in our country. They're not going to stop because it serves their political purpose or their political agenda. But a lot of people are very turned off by it. They find it repulsive, and that's why they're hemorrhaging and they're losing support every single day. But they are convinced that that is the right political strategy for them. It may not be gaining them any support. They may be losing support, in fact. But they're not going to stop because that's the only trick in the book. That's the only card up their sleeve, the racist card. So they have to keep playing that card. And they will ride that wave, and they will ride the hate and the division all the way to the elections. And even now, if they can do something between now and June the 12th to derail the election or to cause it not to be held when it is supposed to be held, they will do it. And that's what they're trying to do even now. So they're trying to organize a protest, and they're going into communities and telling people about fraudulent signatures and so on, because they want to cast doubt on the integrity of the electoral process. They're questioning the integrity of the process, and they are questioning the credibility of our lists, and we will not have it. We will let the elections be conducted. We support GCOM holding these elections. We are monitoring the process. The commission is there on our side, are monitoring the process to ensure we have free and fair elections and transparent elections held in June, and let the people go out there and vote. And let the results be declared. But they don't want that. PNC doesn't want that because they know they're steering defeat. We already have a no contest in about 300 constituencies, the ones that they are not competing in. There's a no contest there. The PPP has already won those constituencies, in Letem, for example, where they didn't submit any list. But nevertheless, we want people to come out. It's important for people to come out and vote, because your vote is serving a dual purpose. And that is, you are supporting the People's Progressive Party Civic and our candidate for the constituencies, but you are also using your vote to reject the PNC, to reject rigors, to reject undemocratic practices, to reject hate, to reject division, to reject racism. That is why voting in these elections is so very important. Because we have to send a clear message to the PNC, APNU. We have to send a clear message that this will not be tolerated, that racism and division will not be tolerated in our country. That's why it is so critical that we go out and participate in the local government elections. Even if the PNC is not on the ballot, go out there and cast your vote for the People's Progressive Party, and let's send a clear and loud message to all of the detractors and racists in the PNC. We need to reject racism, but we also need to focus on development. And so we cannot have them detracting from the development trajectory that we are on. We need to stay focused on our development. We need to stay focused on the transformational plans that the government has to see our country progress and develop, to see prosperity come to the homes of Guyanese, to see people being educated, people being able to find jobs in which they can earn a living, sustain themselves. We need to be living in a country that people can dream and people can achieve all that they wish for themselves. That is the type of country that everyone desires to live in. A country in which you can dream as big a dream as you want, and for it to come true right here, and for you to have the opportunity to do that. And that is our responsibility ultimately as a government, to create opportunities, to create avenues, to give people a shot. Sometimes that is all people need. They need a chance, they need a shot. They need an opportunity to do something great. And they need a conducive environment to do that. And you need a government that thinks big and that will allow you to think big. And that's what you have in President Ali and the PPP. So these elections are not minor. They are very, very important to our overall development and in ridding ourselves and our society of people who want to spread racism and who want to divide the country. Our vote is also to secure national unity. It's very critical to doing that because it shows that we reject hate and we embrace unity and we embrace a one Guyana. And we're putting our trust in President Ali and all of his candidates to take us to that place. So the intimidatory and bullyism tactics that the PNC is using in communities, going into communities, threatening people, intimidating them and bullying them to say that they didn't sign forms or they don't support the PPP is not going to work. We condemn those actions and we reject it. I face that every day in the community in which I work, in Sophia. Many times our supporters in there have to reach out to me to say that people are victimizing them. They can't walk the street in peace. Somebody damaged their property. Somebody removed their water connection. All of these things that they're using to put people under pressure, to force them not to support the PPP. Why must people be made to feel guilty for supporting a party of their choice? So we will stand up to them. Some people, of course, buckle under pressure. But I must say to my comrades and to the people in those communities in Sophia and in all of the areas that are not traditionally PPP support base, but where we have supporters and have new support in those areas, I want to say to those people, we thank you for your support and we thank you for your strength. Not everybody is strong to stand up to the bullyism of the PNC, but many and most people are, and they reject them, and they can stand up to them. And for those persons and all of our supporters in those non-traditional areas, I commend you for your bravery, and I commend you for your commitment to a party that even though you may not have traditionally supported, but you have said, now I'm going to take this step and I'm going to break away from the tradition of my family and I'm going to support a party, not because my parents or grandparents voted for that party, but because I see this party working for me and to my benefit, I'm going to support that party. And I thank those people in the thousands, the new support that is coming to us. I thank them and I recognize the struggle that they have to go through every day just for the right to choose who they wish to support and to choose which political party they wish to support. So the PNC has to be put on notice
that we endured the struggles of the past,
that we endured the more modern struggles of the attempted rigging of the elections and the 5-month period that ensued. We endured all of that. And we will endure and persevere even now as we approach local government elections 2023. We will endure and we will persevere and we will prevail at the upcoming elections on June the 12th. So no bullyism and intimidatory tactics will work. The people will reject you once again, as they did in 2020. You will be even more rejected now in 2023. And so I'm hoping that the votes at the ballot on June the 12th will send a clear and strong message to the PNC that we not only reject you, but we reject your racism and your hateful rhetoric, that it has no place in our society.
And so I'm asking people, as I do every week on this program, to
compare and contrast what is being offered to you in the form of the two major political parties, and you make your choice. You are intelligent people who have seen and witnessed all that has taken place in our country for decades, and you know which party represents progress. So with those few words, I've come down to program time already. My goodness, how the 1 hour flies on this program. But I thank you very much, all of you who are joining me this evening. Please, if you haven't shared the program as yet, please do so now so we could reach as many people as possible. I thank you for your attention this evening. Thank you for spending this hour with me. Do join me again next week, same time, same place. God bless you.